Let's just take a looky-see at what Sam Elliott has been up to since 1883 wrapped. I mean, he's a tremendous actor, a Western icon. Surely he's... oh, well, this is not what I expected. Sam Elliott kind of hates Yellowstone? What? Someone is challenging Sam Elliott to a shootout? What is going on here? There's an F-bomb and another headline that finds someone calling the Sam Elliott sexist and a little bitch. What in the heck? I'm surprised, but I'm not surprised. One thing is clear. Sam Elliott is not who I thought he was prior to the release of 1883 last fall. It's Billy Dukes, and I always imagined Sam Elliott as the smiling, mustachioed stranger at the bar in The Big Lebowski. You know, the guy that talks about sarsaparilla and listens like he's paid to do it.
One of those days, huh? Yeah.
That guy seems like a guy who off-screen would be kind to strangers and nothing but grateful and open-minded. I may have missed the mark a little bit, but before we go too much further, I want to know what your favorite Sam Elliott movie role of all time is. Was it Wade in Roadhouse? Or Virgil in Tombstone? I totally forgot that he was in Hulk and then in that George Clooney movie Up in the Air. Leave a comment and we'll discuss. Here's a kind of chronology of Sam Elliott troublemaking since the beginning of 1883. One of these we couldn't even talk about until recently. The first is when he insinuated some displeasure about his show, 1883, being compared to Yellowstone despite the fact that the same guy wrote it, it involves the same family, and what happens in 1883 is central to Yellowstone.
Yellowstone is all over this. We're tainted by Yellowstone, which on some level I can't stand, because I think 1883 stands alone and will, once it comes out, people are going to say, oh yeah, well, the only connection there is that it got John Dutton to Montana.
You know what? That proved to be a pretty fair assessment. 1883 was its own show. And we talked about this a lot during these videos, and especially during the Dutton Rules podcast. But there was a stone-cold beauty to 1883 that existed without some of the interpersonal conflict that is the hallmark of the modern-day series. Which did you prefer, 1883 or Yellowstone? Leave a comment or just give a thumbs up if you're a bigger 1883 fan. It is its own show after all. Remember this part of the video because it's going to be really, really relevant in just a second. But how about that time Sam Elliott spoiled the ending of 1883 before the first episode even aired? The media kindly held on to this interview clip that I'm about to show you until now. It was during a round-robin interview and Sam was talking about his relationship with LaMonica Garrett and his character Shea's friendship with Thomas as played by Garrett. It's fun to just watch it without much setup.
I love that relationship, and Thomas and his love are the only two. Well, I can't go there for the viewers. But Thomas makes it to Oregon.
Ha! Nothing like spoiling the whole show before it starts, Sam. But again, this indiscretion is on the mild side. It's more naughty than offensive. One more, and then the big one. Talking to Marc Maron on his WTF podcast, Elliott, who had previously admitted he'd turned down a role to appear on Yellowstone, flat out blasted the show. He said it's too much like a soap opera. Quote, "I'm not a Yellowstone fan. I don't watch Yellowstone. I love Costner. There's a lot of good people on the cast. A few of them I've worked with before. Nothing against any of them. But it's just too much like effin' Dallas or something for me." And he didn't say effin', he used, well, you get it. Dallas was an 80s CBS mainstay, and he's not the first to compare the two shows, as they both involve heavy feuding and some backstabbing. He is one of the few who has compared them unfavorably, however. It's not clear how much Sam Elliott made on 1883, but it was surely a lot, and the show was both very good and very successful, so it seems strange to blast his boss's most successful venture, but every workplace has the office loudmouth, so as long as he's not doing something deemed inappropriate or offensive, big deal, right? Well, you can decide for yourself on this last reason why everyone is mad at Sam Elliott. An additional comment made during that same interview with Marc Maron is being labeled as misogynistic, homophobic, and xenophobic. It involves a 12-time Oscar-nominated movie called The Power of the Dog starring Benedict Cumberbatch, directed by Jane Campion. This is a complicated movie that dissects what it's like to be gay living on the ranch. Admittedly, I've not seen the movie, but I'm going to trust the film's star when he says his character is important to understand similar people in the world and to, quote, understand what poisons the well in men, what creates toxic masculinity. Elliott questioned what the director knew about the West since she was from, quote, down there. He meant New Zealand. He also compared the characters in the movie to Chippendale dancers and called the whole movie a piece of shit. This isn't a case of his comments being taken out of context, and he's not really softened his remarks since the podcast went live in late February. No one's really come to his defense either. Actually, most people have stood up for Campion, including Benedict Cumberbatch. Campion fired back, telling The Hollywood Reporter she thought Sam was being a bit of a bitch. Quote, "You know he's not a cowboy either. He's an actor. He grew up in Sacramento and was educated in Oregon." She also told Deadline that Elliott hit the trifecta of misogyny and xenophobia and homophobia, and later challenged him to a shootout at the Warner Brothers lot. Pretty sure she was kidding about the shootout, but she didn't let him hurt her feelings either. I'm not going to ask how you feel about all this because, it's the internet and people can get pretty ugly sometimes. I just ask that you're respectful in the comments section below if you have strong opinions, and no one's going to be solving life's moral dilemmas or even change anyone's mind in the YouTube comment section. It's Billy Dukes with a Taste of Country. Thanks for watching, and thanks for subscribing.